Welcome everyone to another live episode of the Hype Man Podcast. I'm your host Leroy Olaroy. Either way, it's your boy. And tonight, wherever you are in the world, my wife Heather and I, we are going to be discussing hemiplegic migraines. I know this is one that we mentioned a while back, and we're finally going to do it. So Heather, what is hemiplegic migraine?
Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, I could say it. Hemiplegic migraine. Hemiplegic migraines. Hemiplegic migraine. No, I can't. Okay, I tried.
Boom.
Okay,
so hemiplegic migraines, for me, they're kind of the scary migraine type. And what I mean by that is that it's a rare migraine type that people can get. And so it's basically like you're having a stroke, but you're not having a stroke. So I'll go into further what that means. And I'm sure when I've had these types of migraines, Leroy can probably, be like, yeah, it's not, fun one for her. It's heavy, it's hard, it's debilitating, because when I have them, I'm often in bed or I am on the couch because I can't really move a whole lot, or it hurts to move.
right.
So for hemiplegic migraine, it's basically a weakness or even paralysis on one side of your body, or some people might say they feel numbness.
Okay.
So it can be on all parts of your body or one side of your body, and it just depends on the migraine, the migraine and the type of person who is experiencing it, because everyone, even though migraines are very similar, everyone is still different with some of their symptoms and characteristics of a migraine. So that's something to keep in mind too. So even though it's happened to me with certain symptoms, my symptoms may be a little different than yours, or they might be the same.
Mm-hmm.
So this rare is a variety of migraine with aura that can include visual symptoms. So like auras is typically the second stage that you get in the migraine attack. There's usually 4 stages in a migraine attack. And this one, usually you get visual symptoms like flashes of light and zigzagging patterns. And that can happen before or even during the migraine episode or attack.
Okay.
And for me, I often get the visual symptoms, like the flashes that it talks about. Sometimes I do get zigzagging lines. Sometimes I even get some blurred spots, like dark spots.
Okay.
So there's that. And then this one here, it also talks about it can also cause temporary weakness in your body, numbness and tingling, and paralysis on one side of your body, or both. Okay? For me, it tends to be one side of my body, which is usually, it flip-flops. So between the left and the right for me, and it's not always the same of what side of the body it affects.
Okay.
Sometimes it's my lower limbs and not my upper half.
Right. Stairs are hard for you to do. Just trying to just walk around the house is difficult. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, it varies.
It varies, yeah.
And so this one is, keep in mind these symptoms start before the actual headache starts. So it's a gradual process when it happens. It's not like boom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there. Yeah. It doesn't all just hit you.
Yeah.
All at once. It's a gradual thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Hemiplegia means paralysis.
Okay.
Auras also include other sensory problems and trouble speaking or communication issues, and that is oftentimes me. And we can go further into that down the line too. So if you see me looking down, I have things typed because I am getting over a complicated migraine type of day 3 right now, hence for the FL41 migraine glasses.
Yep.
to black out the podcast lights. And then I also feel another migraine coming on as I had nose drips as my indicator. So here is, so hemiplegic migraines have two types of migraines. They have familial hemiplegic migraine and sporadic hemiplegic migraine. And I really didn't know what these meant when I first got diagnosed with this type of migraine. I was very confused, even trying to figure out this type and what it all meant and how do you work with it. And so I've had it, I don't know, maybe a year, 2 years now?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there?
Yeah, I would say closer to 2 now.
Okay. So Leroy and I have figured out a good routine when I do get them. Thankfully, I don't get them as much because I'm not working and I can't work right now. So added stressors or huge stressor is a huge trigger for hemiplegic migraine type for myself. So I don't know what your triggers are, what, that type of thing is, but keep that in mind too. So the two types, going back, the two types is the familial hemiplegic migraine. This one, this type affects at least 2 close relatives in the same family. So it would be on my side of the family. If you have familial hemiplegic migraine and you have children, each of your children has a 50% chance of inheriting this condition. So if your if your neurologist suspects this, genetic testing might be the route you have to go. Or if that isn't the route, but through conversations, documenting, migraine logs, trackers, having a spouse or family friend go with you to these appointments to be like, hey, this is what's happening in my person's life. So there is the second type of migraine, which would be sporadic hemiplegic migraine. This can affect people who don't have any family history of the condition. So for my case, my neurologist hasn't been able to figure out which 2 type I am yet because we're missing part of my family side. So we don't have a lot of information, and I won't go too much into that because it's sensitive and I want to respect family on that part. But we're missing some information on part of my family side, so I can't figure out which one it is, if it's familial hemiplegic migraine or if it's sporadic hemiplegic migraine. And so same thing, my neurologist, she can't figure out which type, and that's okay, but we know that I do have hemiplegic migraine.
Correct.
So if we wanted to, we could go into that genetic testing that it was talking about, right? But again, that's more money. And so as long as we know the type and we know the condition and okay, what do we do with this information? Where do we go? How do we work with it? How do he and I live together, and how do we make it work as a family and a couple, because we are dog parents. So we don't have kids, but we have dogs. So we're still our own little family unit, and so it's like, how do we make it work? So we've had some time to figure that out. And so symptoms of hemiplegic migraine. Do you have that awesome chart?
Start with that one.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to read that?
Hemiplegic migraine, not just a headache. Hemiplegia, paralysis, weaken and numbness on one side of the body, like Heather mentioned. Pain, not just in your head, but neck and shoulders too. Aura, visual disturbances, flashing lights, blind spots, dizziness/vertigo, nausea and vomiting, sensitivity to lights, sounds, and smells, sensory problems, phantom smells, sounds, sights, and tastes. I know Heather has those. Yours is do I smell anything burning? And I'm like, nope. And that's her sign. Like, okay, it's coming, or you're in that stage.
And then at one point, because we were having minor ant problems, I was seeing ants somewhere in my room, and there was no ants, and I had to do a triple check just to make sure there was no ants, and there was no ants, and and that's part of the
with the sensory?
phantom sights, the sensory problems, like that's the phantom sights that it was talking about, so seeing things.
Gotcha. Confusion and disorientation, balance and coordination problems, communication problems, slurred or stuttered speech, difficulty remembering or mixing up words, fatigue/migraine hangover. Yep.
So a lot of that is me. So for me, like Leroy was saying, I get the sensory problems a lot, and I get confusion and disorientation a little bit. Like Leroy will look at me and he'll migraine. When I say look at me twice, that's indicator migraine's coming. And that's good for you guys to see. Like, I don't mind sharing that with you guys, because it's our life, right? But Leroy can easily see when there's confusion with me.
Yep.
And, when there's certain things that aren't quite right with me, and he's like, that's not Heather. That's not necessarily my wife happening right now. Like, it is my wife, but it's not my wife. And it's no offense to me or anything like that. It's just when...
It's just me letting her know, hey, I think a migraine's coming. I don't know what time. I just generalize. I just say migraine, and then she pretty much lets me know, okay, which one it is by whatever symptoms she's feeling. Yeah.
And then, so when things like that happen, it's important to know I keep a migraine tracker for myself and my neurologist. Yeah. And that helps the both of us, And so when he notices certain things and I'm not really paying attention to my body cues or signs, and I see him kind of giving me that quizzical look, and I'm like, what's going on? What's wrong? And he's like, no, it's you.
Not me. I'm looking at you giving it right.
Yeah.
It's your visuals are.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I rely on him a whole lot for those certain types of situations, because I can easily be like, oh, yeah, I need to track that, don't I? And if you're seeing things, okay, what medications or what treatments do I need to start doing to see if I can kind of curb it, and, or what foods do I not need to be eating that are triggers, so it's a balance, and it's very hard. So, other symptoms that I have here that I wanted to go over, it mentioned loss of coordination and loss of balance, and that's a huge one for me. Short-term trouble with muscle control and sensation, that sometimes happens to me too, is the muscle control. So, like, I want to be able to walk downstairs, and I forget how to coordinate my legs downstairs.
Oh, I never knew that. I just thought it was just you just taking your time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so sometimes too, like, because he worries so much a lot of the time, if it's something that's super concerning, like, that I think I can manage and handle and take on my own, I may kind of, like, make that a little bit calmer for him, so that way he doesn't get too worried and too anxious. And You know, it's one of those things that, you know, we kind of tend to protect each other a little bit. And if I know I'm getting this type of migraine or what have you, I don't want to add on any stressors to him sometimes because he has a lot to do. He has to worry about the dogs. He has to worry about making sure that bills are being paid. He has to worry about, you know, the house. And he has to worry about certain tasks in the house or what have you. So like dishes, cleaning. And oftentimes we can leave cleaning to the side, but there's some tasks we can't leave to the side. So, you know, and it's not saying I'm disrespecting him by not sharing it with him. I just don't want to add on any other stressors for him. Or for you, I should say, since you're right here. And so, and sometimes I do let you know and kind of like, hey, yeah, this is what's happening. I can't do this. It hurts. I'm very confused right now. I can't think of how to open something. I can't, you know, like, I can't think of what my next step is. I can't think of... I mean, it's varied levels. And so people forget those types of things or don't even know if you never really experienced a migraine. And so that can be scary. And then this one here too, it says pins and needles feeling, often moving from your hand to your arm. Okay. I've had that and it's not fun. And it's really weird when it happens. It makes, like, it's the numbness and the tingling aspect. It makes you kind of do one of these.
Does it feel like your arm falling asleep?
Yes.
Okay.
And then sometimes more intensified.
Oh, okay.
So, if that helps. And so, you know, some people with hemiplegic migraine can get nausea and vomiting. I typically get nausea. I've stopped the vomiting over the years, which for me I'm thankful because that's not a fun one. There might have been on occasion I get it, but not, you know, as many others might. So if you want to pull the next chart up, we can do that one too. Yeah.
Hemiplegic migraine usually impacts one side of the body. Symptoms include numbness, weakness, pins and needles, paralysis, difficulty with speech and vision, nausea, dizziness, vertigo, confusion, and lots of consciousness.
It's okay. It's a funny word when you're not used to it.
It don't even spell like, it doesn't sound like it's even spelled, but maybe it does. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a funny word though.
And then axia?
Ataxia.
Okay, ataxia, loss of balance and coordination. And aphasia, language difficulty, can last for hours, days, or weeks. Head pain typically follows physical symptoms, but can also come before and Jesus, I cannot talk today. Head pain typically follows physical symptoms, but can also come before or be absent. Hemiplegic migraine is rare and often confused with stroke or seizure, but unlike stroke, symptoms can, oh my God.
Symptoms come on slowly, build, and then completely go away.
Yeah.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
It's okay. So if you want to keep this up here for a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you. So this one here where it says can last for hours, days, or weeks. Mine typically lasts for a day or two. I do know people with hemiplegic migraine who can get it for longer days, who can get it for longer weeks. So if you are that type, please know you are loved and we are here for you, and many hugs because we know it's not easy. And the other one is head pain typically follows the physical symptoms. And let me tell you, when that head pain comes on top of the other symptoms you're getting, it's a lot because it truly hurts. And oftentimes I need my ice hat for that, and or my sound therapy, and I can't listen to both because my music is like a head wrap band that goes over and around my face. So
top of the head.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the migraine part, when I can't think of certain words. So I know a migraine is coming, which is kind of awesome when we do these podcasts, because I'm like, oh, migraine. And so I want to listen to both, right? Or not listen to both, but I want to be able to do both forms of treatment, but I can't because I have to use my head for both. Mm-hmm. And one has wires and speakers, and the other is ice and condensation when it melts. Mm-hmm. So, it's hard. And so usually I do my ice first, and then I do my sound therapy second. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that, tames the pain down a bit.
Right. That combination.
Yeah. And so, and then the confusion that I get with the hemiplegic migraine is unreal and very realistic for me, and it makes me feel very stupid. It makes me feel very like I'm not me. I can't really put it into terms, but like I know I'm here, but I can't process. I can't think of the next step. I easily forget, and then I'm just like, oh, why can't you think of this right now? Mm-hmm. Like, and I get easily frustrated with myself when this happens. And so thankfully Leroy is, my support system, and he helps me through these moments, and if he sees it on the spot. And so I know there's a lot of people who may not have that, so I'm very grateful for Leroy and the things that you do, and for me when I have this type of migraine. And currently right now I do get a lot of the symptoms, but the hemiplegic migraine part I don't get as frequently as I used to, which I'm thankful for, and that's because added stressors are
not there.
Yeah. And so, that's a big one. And if I were to be working again, or if I were able to work, I should say, because I can't really work, and that would be a whole nother podcast of that, reason. But as far as I can't really work, like, that would, if I were to work, that would be that stressor. That would lead to more hemiplegic migraines. Yeah. And that would be scary. That would be daunting. That would be hard on both of us, not just me, but also on Leroy. Yep. And so in the rare cases, here it also talks about that some of the symptoms that weren't mentioned in both of those charts is memory loss. Mm-hmm. Memory loss is a huge one for me. Yep. And I get that almost on a daily.
Yes.
And so some might say that's medications. Okay, I like side effects. Mm-hmm. I can agree with you on some of that, but that's also part of the migraine. Yep. And so we just recently had an MRI for myself, and everything turned out normal, and that's great news, because I was concerned about memory loss. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you were a little bit. Mm-hmm. And some people can, in rare instances, some people can become in a coma. Yeah. Okay. And I want to throw these out there because I'm not trying to scare anybody, but just try to give information from what I've done research on and doctors have shared with me. Okay. And so those are the couple things that weren't mentioned that were also in the research that I found. And symptoms can be a few hours to a few days. Auras can be more severe than other types of migraines. when to go to the ER, and this is a hard one to decipher, and if you're able to. So, slurred speech, sudden weakness, and loss of consciousness. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've had these for a good while, and I know what to expect. Leroy knows what to expect and what happens. So if something is completely different, that's a concern for me, I would let Leroy know, and go from there. So, and I know for those of you who might try to be figuring that out, please work that out with your neurologist, doctor, whoever you're seeing for your migraines. Like, what signs should I go to for the ER and, have a treatment plan and things of that nature. Like, this is just our experience, so I wanted to let you know if you feel like you need to go to the ER, please do. If you're not sure, talk to your neurologist, talk to your doctor, and see what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. So, and then I also, with this type of migraine, I get lots of facial droopings. And the one that you see here in my mouth, that's not a facial drooping necessarily. That is a weak nerve that I was born with. And facial drooping for me means eyes. Mm-hmm. And we have a few selfie shots that I took pictures of that Leroy can put up for you guys. Mm-hmm. So what does this picture mean to you, Leroy, when you see it?
Oh, you're in a migraine.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's one of those things where Heather will she'll ask me, it's like, any facial droopings? I'm like, yep. And I point either which side is more prominent than the other one.
Yep.
And then and then there's times she'll be like, okay, she's like, weird, but I don't feel any pain. Well, I'm like, well, your face is saying something completely different, that you need to get your treatment started.
Yep.
Now instead of waiting.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely eye drooping in the right eye.
Yep.
Excuse me. More than the left, but definitely in the right. And then there's some puffiness as well. Little bit of the dark circles starting to form there.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the forehead too, you can look at the I was gonna say the lines, but the tension in the forehead. Mm-hmm. That's what I was looking for.
It's a good word.
Yeah. So.
And if you want to go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so this is my music head wrap I was talking about. So it's not a head wrap, it's just my headphones that I wear.
It's a head wrap.
Well, it looks like a head wrap.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But it's headphones.
Yeah. It's a head wrap that has Bluetooth headphone capability in it.
It's my headphones.
Yes, it's your headphones.
Silly side. So this one here, the right eye, once again, has a lot of the facial droopings and a little bit of the left eye too. Mm-hmm. So, and sometimes I can have both eyes.
Oh yeah, to where they're both like barely open.
Yeah.
Again, tension in the forehead as well.
Yeah.
And then you notice too, what's that green light? It's Heather's.
Oh yeah, that's right. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go.
Okay. I was very confused. Green light? What? Huh? So the green light is green light therapy. It's another form of migraine treatment, non-pharmaceutical or non-medication, if you will. Mm-hmm. And another holistic approach. They have the green alley lamp out there, which is over $100 and is bonkers to me. But this one here, it costed $15 and it does the same exact thing, and from a store that is online. And it's one of those things that the green light is supposed to help with people with migraines. Mm-hmm. And so you're supposed to use it consistently for 2 hours every day. And I don't use it consistently enough.
Nope.
And that's because you're not supposed to have any other sources of light with the green light, because then it Go ahead.
I would say that I was going to say that cancels out the benefit, but I can't think of
it
the
cancels
term
out
right.
the frequency of the green light waves.
Right.
Yeah. And that's okay. I knew what you were trying to say. Mm-hmm. And so it's one of those things that I noticed it doesn't necessarily help with me for my migraines, but it does help with the anxiety factor. Mm-hmm. It does help with the stress when I feel like my stress is high.
Yeah.
And so, I will take that for a win. And I should be doing it daily. But, I also like other light. I like, watching my TV. I like having certain other things on. So it's, it's weird. And I know it doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth,
It's not weird. You just gotta prioritize. For instance, okay, let me just do 20 minutes.
Yeah. But the thing is, with the green light, you need, I think, 2 hours.
Oh, but see, I ain't even know the time. Well, then
that's hard. 2 hours.
Hey, even if you gotta take a nap, like today, you should have popped that on while you were asleep, and then when you wake up and you're like, oh, okay, let me turn it off. You could have used it there too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, so some things are on me, and I will own it. Mm-hmm. But so there is a combination of treatments happening here in this picture.
Yeah. And then the
the classic one.
This is
classic.
What's the pain level on this one, Heather?
I would say 8 to 9.
8 to 9. Yeah.
And when I'm saying facial droopings, like this one is both eyes. Mm-hmm. And facial droopings for me, like I'm not purposefully doing this. I can't control it. And when they happen, I even try to open up the eye that is not wanting to work with me and cooperate. And it hurts when I try to do that. Mm-hmm. Like it is, it just hurts when I try to open it. Mm-hmm. So, it's very real when you see people with migraines having facial droopings with hemiplegic migraine. And so, we wanted to give some pictures to share with you guys to kind of help identify what facial droopings look for some people. And some people can get facial droopings with their mouth when they talk with hemiplegic migraine. Mm-hmm. But with me, it's not my mouth, it's my eyes. And, it's some people would say, well, why do you want these type of pictures out there? Mm-hmm. Well, talking's great. And, sharing our experience is great. And that's another thing. But these pictures are 100% real. And they, pictures tell all. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And so that's another form, and showing people yes, hey, visually this is what it looks like, or what facial drooping looks like for myself, maybe for some other people too. Mm-hmm. And so it's to get the awareness out there too, and so I'm okay with that. And just wanted to share that part with you guys too. Hemiplegic migraine episode causes symptoms like confusion and trouble speaking, which are very similar to those who have strokes. So please keep that in mind. I have also read that if symptoms come on very suddenly, it is more likely to be a stroke than a migraine. If the symptoms come on like aura symptoms, like the visual, the motor, the sensory aspects, those are the hemiplegic migraines because they come on gradually and slowly. And so
to where a stroke just
boom.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
You have no indication, no warning, no signals.
Yeah.
Boom. Because somebody in my migraine group, they asked, well, how do you tell a difference? How do you know? And so that is a way you can tell too. Treatment, I'm going to go over some of this very vaguely because I know this is already getting long. to be a podcast. But there's abortive medications for acute attacks. There is toradol antiemetic drugs like Reglan, Nurtec, which I've tried and that does not work for me, but it can work for somebody else. Ubrelvy, other over-the-counter medications, but when you're using over-the-counter medications, please keep in mind over-the-counter medications, if used too much, it can cause rebound headaches. So I'm throwing that out there. Preventative medications, which is something you take on a daily to prevent hemiplegic migraines. Here they talk about beta blockers, Botox, CGRPs, the newer medications that are out, anticonvulsants, calcium channel blockers, which I've tried a couple and I'm allergic to them. So that is now on my allergic list. Antidepressants are other forms of medications. And I'm sure there's more, but that's what some of the list gave. And so I wanted to give that to you guys. A few genes that have been linked to hemiplegic migraine is ATP1A2, that is one gene. CACNA1A, that is another gene. PRT2 is another gene. SCN1A is also another gene. So those are what researchers have found when doing studies on hemiplegic migraine.
Okay.
Common triggers for hemiplegic migraine: stress. Bright lights, which is up here with the podcast. And that's when FL41 migraine glasses for me come into play. Intense emotions. So I feel a lot of people's emotions, and it's hard to block that out. So I have to, also balance that. Too little or too much sleep. Oh yeah. So other migraine triggers include foods like processed foods, aged cheeses, salty foods, and the additive MSG.
Chinese food.
Yeah, can't do that one anymore.
Nope. But you can always say, no MSG, but you just, nope. Done. Just done with it.
And MSG is really hard to find if that is your trigger. I don't know if that is my trigger or not, but it's really hard to find. And I know there is a good book to read on MSG, and I can go back into my migraine group and type it in the comments for you guys later, because one of my admins gave that to me, or for the group members in my group that I have. And so it's a good information learning tool. Alcohol and caffeine. I don't do alcohol anymore. And a couple of times I might take a few sips of his, but I mean my sips are like little, like they're not, like whoa.
Yeah, she's not drinking half.
No. And even if I wanted to, he would stop me. So
I mean, I wouldn't stop you.
Okay.
I wouldn't stop you.
Cool. But yeah, no, I know better though too. And then skipping meals, that's a big one. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Weather changes, that's another huge one.
Yeah.
So I have all of these, essentially, except for salty foods and MSG. So we think. Hemiplegic migraine can be really worrisome to people who are experiencing it for the first time or many times.
Yeah.
Even loved ones who are experiencing it with the migrainer. This can also be worrisome. Also learn to do some research on your own, or see what you can do to help your loved one and how you can make it work for both of you. Instead of saying, no, you need to do this in your migraine. You need to do that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, newsflash, that's not going to happen. If you want your partner or your loved one to do all these things when they're in a hemiplegic migraine, that's not going to happen. And that's only going to make the stress worse because you're adding stress on your migrainer. You're adding possible fights in, that relationship. And that is an added stress. And so please know when your loved one or family member is having these, please remember that, and please be kind to them and ask them, what can I do for you? What do you need me to do? Or what can I get for you? All those things. What Leroy does for me, he gets me ice packs. He brings me water if I can't ambulate the stairs. And if I need to go to the bathroom and I can't really get there by myself because of the dizziness, then he walks next to me. He's done that before. Other times he's had to work from home.
There's been a few times,
And it's not a lot, but he's had to work from home to help support me and still work at his job.
And take care of the dogs when she can't.
Yep. And I'm very thankful for his organization for that. Because it helps a lot for those certain type of situations. So muscle problems usually go away within 24 hours to a few days. So maybe the migraine's gone, but you're still having muscle problems. So keep that in mind too with your loved ones. This type needs to be diagnosed by a medical professional to make sure you're not having any other medical diagnosis happening. Okay, so please keep that in mind. I don't want this, information to be like, oh, well, the Hype Men podcast said blah, 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 blah. It is a liability issue, and I don't want that. And so it's one of those things where, okay, well, we're doing this for our experience and the awareness to get out there.
Right.
And if you suspect this might be you, please go to a neurologist or a headache specialist and go get checked out for this type of migraine. Okay? And learning the signs and symptoms also might make it a bit more manageable. So that way you can try and see if you can curb it for some, aspect of it. I forgot to mention earlier too, before this ends, or maybe Leroy has any advice for spouse or family members. But someone in one of the groups I'm in, they had said, I have complex hemiplegic migraines. There is no such thing as complex hemiplegic migraines. Just want to put that out there. So if you see this, please know there is no such thing as complex hemiplegic migraines.
There are only the two that you mentioned.
Yes. Right? And there's the two types that I mentioned earlier. And my neurologist said that, and research shows for it. When I was doing research, complex migraines or complex hemiplegic migraines did not pop up. Complex migraines popped up, but not complex hemiplegic migraines. So want to throw that out there so there's no confusion. And we hope that this podcast helped in some way. Do you have any other information for loved ones, migraineurs?
No, just be out on the, just be observant when you see a migraine with your significant other or loved one. And then over time, you'll be able to you'll be able to notice those signs a lot quicker, like I have, where I'll tell Heather, I believe a migraine's coming. She's like, yeah, but there's no pain. I just go look in the mirror. Or she's stubborn, which she is. She's stubborn and doesn't want to believe it. And I just go look in the mirror. Oh wow, yeah, you knew. You were just hoping. I said, oh no, you look fine. There's no facial droopings, but yeah, no, just after a while you get used to the symptoms, the physical cues, and just keep an eye on that, and then just let the loved one know that, hey, a migraine's coming. And then, you know, whatever they need for you to do as far as ice packs or grab the medications or whatever, you know, you just do it. So that's all I have. So.
And thank you for doing those things.
Sure.
Because life would be very hard. So.
Yep. So, all right, guys, I'm going to end it there. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Hype Man Podcast, and we will catch you guys later. All right. Have a good night. Thank you.